my philosophy on reed making is a little different than some people's. I like to get the entire reed to vibrate first. So a lot of people scrape the tip, a lot of American players in particular scrape the tip of the reed, get that kind of mostly finished, and then bring the scrape back. Does that sound familiar to? I don't do it that way. I want to kind of keep it all in a unit. So there's basically 3 sections in the reed, right? You have your tip, you have your heart, and your back area. And it's always, the tip's always the thinnest, the heart's always the thickest, and the back's always a little thinner than the heart, right? So what I like to do is get those proportions, thinner, thickest, less, and bring them down together. And then try to get, I like to have the reed wildly vibrant, too vibrant, and then bring it back. So, which again is different. Most people get it vibrant enough and stop. They get it so just the reed feels good and then they play on it. Which in theory makes perfect sense. But it's like it's hard to know, maybe this reed could be more vibrant. Maybe if it was more vibrant, it would be better. So the only way you can do that I know is getting it slightly too vibrant and then bringing it back. So here, it's like, say this music stand is a continuum, and say that off this end is gross and wild and nasty, okay? I think the best reeds are right around here, just on the verge of being too much, but they're not. They don't go over the edge, but they're just approaching the edge. I think a lot of people, because they're so afraid of crossing that edge into gross, nasty, horrible, that they don't approach the edge. They hang out down here the whole time because they're afraid of going over the edge. So I think, in order to know where the edge is, you have to go over the edge. And then you can come back. And actually, the difference between slightly over the edge and slightly back is not that much of a difference. But by going over the edge, then okay, that's too far. It's too wild, it's too gross, it's too in your face. And then it's very easy to refine it and bring it back. But then, hopefully, you can hang out in this area where it's almost too much, but not. As opposed to always hanging out in this area where it's completely safe and very limited. Does that make sense? So, I think so that doesn't exactly answer your question, but there's not one easy answer. Where do you scrape the reed to make it? Just while we're waiting, I might as well talk about reeds. It's one thing to think about in reeds. It's a scientific principle that a flat surface conveys a vibration more efficiently than a bumpy surface. An example I like to use is if you have a pond that's completely glassy smooth with no ripples at all. If you drop the tiniest pebble in the middle of that pond, the wave of that pebble will hit the shore if the pond is completely glassy smooth. If it's choppy and windy and you drop a tiny little pebble in the middle of the pebble wave may hit the first chopping pond wave and stop. You see because the flat surface will convey the vibration more efficiently, the wave more efficiently. The other example I like to use is a clothesline. If we stand out in the backyard and we have 10 feet of clothesline, we're standing apart and hold the clothesline like this, you can make a little tiny wave like that, and that wave quickly travels across the clothesline. If we both take 2 giant steps forward, so the clothesline is now shaped like this, even though it's still 10 feet, that wave takes longer to go down and up than if it was straight across. Now what makes this confusing with oboe reeds is we use that principle. We use the principle of the flat surface both to add vibration and to add resistance. And because we don't want simply an efficient vibrating reed. If you made the whole reed super thin, the same thinness all the way across, it'd be very efficient and would sound like a kazoo. So we want to use the principle to add resistance as well as ease it. So anytime you soften a section, it makes it more vibrant. Anytime you add a step in a section, it makes it more resistant. And whether it's good or bad depends on the cane and what you've done in the rest of the reed. But at least it's kind of good to know that if you make a line between the tip and the heart very clear, those tip vibrations will slow or stop depending on before they get to the heart. If you soften that line, they will go easier. So if you soften the line, it may take a stiff reed and make it beautifully flexible, or it may take a good reed and make it flat and unstable. It depends on what the rest of the reed's doing. Does that make sense to everybody? Sort of? Okay.